Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Games Industry Executive Summary. This is Casey, and I'll dive into it immediately today. We're a bit short on time, so welcome on board, gentlemen. We have, of course, as usual, the dashing Dave Fear
Here to
and
dash.
the analyst Manu Rosier.
Hello.
Welcome on board. How are you guys?
Good. We're good.
Good.
It's a bracing spring morning.
It's a beautiful day today. It's been cloudy for almost a week ever since I went to Malmo and recorded from there. But now we're seeing the sun come out, so good signs. I have been missing you more and more each week, and I think I figured out the reason for that.
Okay, let's hear
Because
it.
we had that one week where we recorded 2 episodes. I was like,
Ah,
we got into this.
You got addicted. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Gentlemen, I won't waste any time today because usually, or sometimes I most often forget asking you about what you're doing, what you're playing, all that type of stuff. Dave, on the 29th next week, we have the monthly takeaway.
Yes, we do.
Yes, and that's fully led by you. And I'm looking forward to that. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see if
Yeah.
there's politics
I'll,
there.
it'll be amazing.
If you can sprinkle some tariffs in there, that would be
Tariffs? Just well, I'm in the Netherlands, so you don't have to pay tariffs. But if it's heading to the U.S., then they might have to give me 10% extra attention.
okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Looking forward to it. Do you have any special guests on that one, by the way?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Well, let me know if you need any help in that department.
Definitely.
Gentlemen, I'll move into it immediately, share my screen, talk about the highlights. Number one item on the list. Over 182,000 people were playing Oblivion Remastered on Steam within hours of its sudden launch on a random Tuesday. Random Tuesday was not so random. So tell us, what can we learn about this?
I just hope it means we get Morrowind. That's all.
it went to 188,000. I think that was the peak.
Damn. And this is, of course, with Game Pass availability. So
190. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy. That's the part. So it's available on Game Pass. Still, it does so well on Steam, and it's expensive.
When
yeah,
you say
50 for a remake.
50 euro,
Yeah.
50 $55. What is it? Price.
um,
55 euro at
Okay.
least in France.
And I think it also speaks to the fact that we just haven't had an Elder Scrolls game in a really long time, and people like Elder Scrolls.
Yeah. And then the second news is just a quote of someone saying these 20-year-old games remaster, they don't work. It doesn't make sense. I think some people are also saying it will look really weak compared to Elden Ring, or these comments are a bit weird to compare Oblivion with Elden Ring. I think you have to compare Oblivion with Skyrim, with
With Avowed, right?
Fallout,
Yeah.
with Starfield, and the reality is that from a gameplay standpoint, they are very similar. I hadn't played Oblivion for a while. I've started again because it's in Game Pass, so it's easy to just at least try it. And I'm amazed by the number of loading screens that I have. It really reminds me Starfield, which it's a gameplay pattern of Bethesda. So nothing new, nothing that feel aged. To be honest, even when you look at the inventory management, I'm not sure there has been that much progress at Bethesda in the last 20 years. And the story, the discover, the feeling of being in a journey, discovering territories, walking around, it's still very good. The music is incredible. So why not? First, nostalgic players, they are super happy to come back in there, and then just new player is an interesting RPG experience.
Yeah, I think that's really the most important thing. And I think the thing that maybe whoever was talking about how 20-year remasters don't work is missing is that these are good games. And like for a really large portion of the player base here, this is just like, oh, cool, an Elder Scrolls game. Something they might not even be all that familiar with. They're like, oh, it's like Skyrim, but it looks better.
Yeah.
And that works, you know.
And a 20-year-old game today is 2005. That was already PlayStation 3 material, Xbox 360. It's not that old from a technical standpoint. 10 years ago, a 20-year-old game would be 1995, and then there would be a huge technical gap. But right now, we because the hardware is stagnating somehow, or it's not evolving as fast as it used to be. You don't see that much of that technical gap that you saw a long time ago. So that's also the plateauing of the technical performance also allows older games to still be relevant right now.
Also the design gap, right? So if you think about like, you know, when Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time introduced Z targeting, right? That completely changed the way that people conceived of combat in 3D space. And so anything before that is going to feel incredibly different. And the number of innovations like that just go down and down because the people have kind of figure out how to make this work. By the time you get to Oblivion, you can make it feel better. You can do a lot of that stuff, but a lot of it is a lot more modern than people necessarily want to admit.
Yeah. So all in, I think the only thing a bit weird for me was the whole marketing campaign. It's like they wait. I don't know if they change any of their plans or if they control the leaks, so that the leaks basically became the marketing campaign. But everybody knew it was coming ahead of time. Everybody was relieved it was finally launching, but for me it feels really weird. It's like they didn't control any of the narrative, but maybe it was on purpose. So
Yeah, I can see that. Well, Microsoft does kind of know what they're doing from that perspective, so I wouldn't be shocked if they were doing a little bit of orchestration, just a little.
Yeah.
Or maybe, you know, once they started, they just adapted and said, okay, this is the plan now.
But what I don't get is why this game is releasing shadow dropping 2 or 3 days before probably one of the Game of the Year contestants, which is also on Game Pass. For me, it's puzzling that there is this bottleneck, and the other game is for you that have not heard of. What is it? It's a Clair Obscur Expedition 33.
Oh yeah. That's
It has a 94 Metacritic score.
I didn't realize it's on Game Pass. My friends were all talking about it last night. It's
it is.
They were calling it an FRPG.
Yeah, it's a JRPG made by a French studio.
Yeah.
So I think KZ, you liked Fantasio. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to try that one.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's the same flavor as. It's almost the same flavor as Persona, more or less. You're just getting a different variety of Persona.
Yeah, it's
I've not started.
Action-based.
It's turn-based combat, but its setup is in France. I think Revolution or around that time. So I'm really curious as a living in France to see how it is. But it's quite cool actually, and apparently everything is top notch. Yes.
I feel like there's some vibes from the Order 1886, was it?
Yeah, similar kind of late 19th century thing going on.
Yeah, the era is similar. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's slightly fantastical late 19th century.
Yeah, in the same way that you had some Final Fantasy games that were also around that time. Right? They were not all Japanese.
Yeah, it's got good style, but it's still like removed from modern fashion. It's like legible, but also fantastic. I feel like it works pretty well for a fantasy RPG.
Yeah. So, and it's funny, the publisher is talking about a Barbenheimer moment. You remember the release of Barbie and Barbenheimer? Can these games be complementary? I don't know, because from a game time standpoint, these are both longer periods. So it's going to be
similar demographics too. I feel like are interested in these things.
So, but all in all, I don't understand from the outside why they would release the two games so close to each other while they are both contributing to the engagement in Game Pass.
I mean, I think that from a certain perspective, if I was Microsoft, I might like burn some Steam sales just to keep Game Pass in the news for like 2 weeks going. Just because that is definitely a major struggle that they have, is that people like talk about it when a new release comes, but that's only for like 2 or 3 days, and they're really mostly talking about the game itself. And so if you have this, then there's a higher chance that you're going to be actively talking about Game Pass, which Microsoft does need.
And then there's of course the impact of shadow dropping such a popular game. It's like everything else disappears in the news and on Steam. I think it's very challenging for smaller studios that have whatever marketing budget they have their clear campaign plan, and then at the moment they release, they basically got a monster like that releasing and taking all the attention and also all the game time at that moment. So yeah.
Gentlemen, I do want to agree with you that about the. I assume you do agree that it makes sense to remaster these 20-year-old games, because people who were born 20 years ago might not have played these, right? Would that make sense? I mean, is that the target?
And I think in just a basic way, right? Like remastering a game like this is going to be cheaper than making a new game, and making a new game does not give you significantly higher chances of financial success. So, like, why wouldn't you?
And I think the aging of your game will move the needle whether you need a remaster or a remake.
How are they messaging this? Is this a remaster or a remake?
Absolutely remaster. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because I hear like the action is sufficiently different to make it feel very different, but I guess that can still fall under remaster.
It's the Unreal Engine for the world, for the visual, but I think it's still the old engine when it comes to combat and some other stuff like the under the hood. But yeah, beside that, and I think a game like Final Fantasy VII needs a remake, because a remaster, it's really aged old gameplay.
It won't hold
In
up.
this case, this is still like any other random open world game. I was playing a bit of Stalker 2 before, and it's still the same mechanics. You know, you're free roaming. Then you see point of interest. You go there, you discover. You go to the next one, and you have some missions and some quests. But ultimately, it plays very similar to Oblivion.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're looking at the footage that we saw a bit earlier. It looks extremely beautiful, in my opinion. It's up to par with major releases the past 5 years. And in my opinion, games don't necessarily need to look prettier than that. I mean, that was still impressive in many ways.
And visuals were a huge part of the original Oblivion launch. I still remember looking at those screenshots and thinking, oh my god, it's Morrowind, but it's photorealistic.
And I think there is an element also. I'm not a fan of heroic fantasy, but it works well for this type of games compared to Cyberpunk, for example. Cyberpunk is a great game, but the exploration part is limited because it's within cities. It feels more modern. There are less element of surprise when you are within a city or within an urban environment.
Harder to make vistas and that kind of thing, because people move quickly and there's a lot of stuff.
And for a Starfield, for example, the challenge you have is that you have to slice your open world content into different planets, and each planet feels kind of empty. While games like Oblivion, Skyrim, Kingdom Come also, and The Witcher, you have this, you discover the nature, and it's very engaging. It's very, how did I say that? It transports you in another world. You know, the escapism is very high, I think, for these games, because you can just walk around and if you are in any forest, but it's a different place.
Sense of discovery.
Yeah,
I feel like to that point, nobody looked at Mass Effect 2 and said, "Oh yeah, let's not do that." Because if I remember, was it 2 or 3, the one that where you go to random planets and there was just empty, nothing was there. I think that was 2.
That's 1, I think.
One. One you have a little bit of discovery with the Mako.
Okay.
Yeah.
And get some resources. Yeah, but it's very empty.
In 2, they just had that probe mini game.
The probe thing. Yeah.
And you have No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky is the same logic. You can
Yes, sci-fi does it. Sci-fi is obviously pretty adjacent to fantasy in a lot of ways, and I feel like it does well. It can also do well with that feeling. I mean, I don't know if you consider post-apocalyptic sci-fi. I think that's something you could do, but Fallout's the obvious place to go there.
Absolutely. And there is speaking of Fallout, there is the Outer Worlds 2, I believe, is coming out soonish.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Outer Worlds was wacky. That was a fun thing.
That was the same team behind Vegas, right? New Vegas?
Mm-hmm. And Avowed, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Obsidian?
Yeah, Obsidian. I was thinking about Obsidian. But, gentlemen, I was looking at the Xbox Game Pass games, and I haven't, gone there, even though I'm a subscriber. I haven't gone there for a while. There's another game called Immortals 33. I'm not sure if there's a connection with the number 33, a magical connection to that. But a game that I think you mentioned, Manu, Blueprints.
Yes.
I'm getting some hype about that game as well from other people.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I learned recently, and it seems like Raw Fury is on a roll here. They're being very picky with what they choose, and they're being more accurate with cool games. I was watching, and just to touch on Blueprints again, I was watching a Biohazard 2, Resident Evil 2 walkthrough or like playthrough speedrun. I was like, I never realized this until to this moment, and watching the speedrunner play it. Resident Evil 2 is a point-and-click game. When you see a speedrunner play it, it's literally a point-and-click game.
Fun.
But have you had any chance to look at Blueprints?
I got to do it. You finished it?
Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
What's the read?
I mean, I reached the end of the game, but the gameplay loop continues because there are so many layers of secrets to discover. But reaching room 46, yes, I've done that, and it takes more or less time for players. It depends, but it's also about discovering all the different layers of surprises.
But what kind of game is it? A point and click, or what are you? You're in this mansion, right? And you're like discovering clues and connecting things. What are you doing?
It's a roguelike puzzle game. So you're basically navigating through the house. You need to go to the antechamber with keys, with open doors, and every room has different specificities, whether it's giving you items, allowing you to go left, right, in front. And there are a lot of interconnections also between the rooms. And it's like you have a deck of cards with all these rooms, and you can choose between 3 cards and put it on the table. It could be an amazing board game, actually. It's going to be a board game, probably very soon. And then you discover layers of the story, like the characters. In the beginning, it doesn't tell you anything. You're just going to the mansion of someone that has passed away. And it's very compelling, but I think I have like 25 hours, 21. I'm gonna play a bit more, but at some point you probably stop, and unless you want to restart completely. So you can either stay in the same save game, and then the days are incremental, because you have only so many steps, so much movement per day. And if you come at the end of the day without solving the problem, then you restart. Or you can have a completely new start where you reset to day 1, and then you've lost all your progression within this game. It's really good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited to check it out.
Yeah.
I feel like I would like to check it out as well.
And like the first day you do is maybe 10 minutes, but then when you get all the items and all the progression, maybe a run is like 30 or 40 minutes, because you go closer and closer each time. So there is this increment element. So yeah, and then if we're talking about Game Pass, as I said, I played Stalker 2. I started it. And then another one that's quite good is South of Midnight.
Yeah, I
We can have a look at it.
South of Midnight?
Yeah. So the reality is that there are too many games unless you are a professional gamer. You don't have time for all of these one. It's just It's crazy. And good games. It's not just average content, it's just good game.
Yeah, it's too. One wonders what would happen if they had been able to have this pace of content closer to the launch of Game Pass, when it was such a bigger part of the conversation. Man, so that's a pretty looking game, isn't it?
It's really the gameplay is rather basic. You have like a 2-3 powers, and then some parkour, and then some fights. But the setup, the scenery, it's happening in
Louisiana kind of thing.
Yeah. It's kind of of ambiance, and it's very beautiful, and it's very interesting. Characters, everything is really good.
I mean, is this Uncharted meets?
No.
Okay, what are we looking at then?
It's more of a, I don't know, little adventure games with some. There's not even like side stories or anything there. It's just rather a corridor approach, but with some. Yeah, no, it's not Uncharted. It's not Uncharted. Uncharted is story driven. This is not story driven, but the setting is deep enough that it feels more interesting than a random type of game like that.
So it's corridor, but not story driven. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, gentlemen. I feel like this is another podcast we'll have to start where we just like discover games and talk about them. Endless amount of games. But speaking of a game that's been out for a long time as a standalone.
Yeah.
And this is I'm not sure if you want to call it big news or not.
Yes.
I'm not necessarily surprised. I do get these emails like, hey, we have a spring sale, buy our game. So Escape from Tarkov 1.0 is due in 2025. Steam version confirmed. Do they have a Steam page, by the way?
Let's see.
Probably not yet.
Okay, I don't see a Steam page. Oh no, maybe there is a Steam page. Give me a second.
No,
there isn't.
Okay, but you have go to Steam.
Yep.
And type "escape from" in the search.
People don't know escaping.
Why you don't have escape from Duckov?
Escape from Duco?
Duckov, like a duck.
This one?
DU. CK.
There you go. What is this? 2015. Oh wow, yeah, this is cute.
I am into this.
So no, you don't have the official one, but you have the one with duck. Even if it's a different game, but I think it's kind of funny that they.
I do like trying to piggyback. You know, a lot of people would just do a much less interesting, straightforward clone if they're going to do that. But it looks like these people actually made a game, so I support that.
Yeah. So Escape from Tarkov, and it comes back to the discussion we had about extraction shooter last week.
Yeah.
It's difficult to really know how popular Escape from Tarkov is because it's not on Steam, so we don't have SteamDB. Now we will finally know, and I think they probably made their calculation and they realized that it's going to open a much wider audience by being on Steam, even if it costs them some margin. I think, yeah.
I mean, so many people have made that calculation before them, big and small.
Yeah.
Last week, I posted, okay,
I know,
about the next bloodbath of 2025 in the shooter genre and specifically extraction shooters, right? And I'm wondering if this is coming off the heel of, like, okay, we've been operating for a while on our own. We're doing good. And I read somebody wrote a comment that they're making $100 million a year. I'm not sure if that is true or not.
It would be massive.
But they are not on Steam. And if there are other competitors on Steam, and I mean, I don't know what you think. I would love to hear if you have any insight or numbers. But I'm assuming Escape from Tarkov, on Steam will probably be a top 5 game at least for a couple weeks.
Oh yeah, probably. I think at this point Steam kind of opened the Asian audience. which is kind of weird because Steam is not related to China at all. But the reality is that once you launch on Steam, you reach the Chinese audience
Yeah.
indirectly, through. Yeah. So it's good. And I think it will really help to assess the real popularity of an extraction shooter, even if this one is considered as being niche. But we will quickly see, yes, if it's a top 5, top 10 game.
It's also the least niche extraction shooter, so it makes it even more difficult for these other people to show up if they're competing against a wave of publicity off of a Steam launch of the only extraction shooter that anyone cares about.
And Dave, I want to point this out as well. I mean, yeah, so these are the games, and they're all coming out this year, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. So Marathon by Bungie, Exoborn by Tencent and Shark Mob, Arc Raiders, Embark, PUBG, Black Budget by Krafton, and then Off the Grid by Gunzilla. Maybe Off the Grid is next year, not this year. But the point here, all of these are like, futuristic. Either there's an exoskeleton thing or it's a sci-fi thing. But to be honest with you, I feel like Tarkov is more interesting than these, even if it's an older game.
Yeah, certainly. Again, I still suspect that Night Reigns might be something that could be classified as extraction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it is. It is absolutely in some shape or form. Yes.
Yeah, and it will not compete with these other games.
No.
It'll be its own thing.
I agree, and I think the audience there is probably a bit different mindset, but we'll see how that goes. Okay, gentlemen, I'll move over to the news section. Fortnite Star Wars season asks, "What if the whole game was just Star Wars?" Okay, what are we learning here?
Well, everybody's waiting for the Star Wars season, or usually it's like a 1-month event within Fortnite. But yeah, the question is, why is there not a permanent Star Wars mode yet in Fortnite?
Yeah.
Oh, like a lightsaber dueling.
Yeah,
thing.
because clearly, like Disney's down, right? Yeah. They are in bed with Epic. They trust them, so that would make sense to me, definitely.
And or just I guess as part of the collaboration between Disney and the deal between Disney and Epic, there will be this kind of Disney theme park built by Fortnite, and I'm just curious to see if we will have permanent Star Wars experience in the same way that we have permanent Lego experience in Fortnite.
Yeah, I mean, I would be shocked if there was not a permanent Star Wars experience coming alongside the Disney theme park thing.
Yeah,
there is. It's an extraction shooter.
Yeah.
Okay, enough jokes. I'll move over to the next item, Heroes of Valor. And this one says, this shooter is billing itself as the Battlefield Heroes you can actually play. A game I actually worked on 15 years ago-ish. Tell us, what is Heroes of Valor?
Battlefield Heroes was, I never played, but my understanding from people that worked on it is that it was ahead of its time.
Dude, looking at it right now, this is almost Battlefield Heroes.
This is Battlefield Heroes? Or is this Battlefield Heroes?
The new one that looks like Battlefield Heroes, like
well, I see what you mean by ahead of its time. It just looks like Fortnite.
Yeah, but Battlefield Heroes was what a casual Battlefield should have been, and should not have been probably stopped, and should have been like free-to-play casual Battlefield type of game with a lot of destruction, with different type of monetization. But instead of that, they went for hyper visually realistic games that requires a big computer to run, and they basically went shrinking the audience with some of the choice they made. And the two games could have lived together at the same time. I think there was nothing wrong with that. So looking at that, looking in the mirror, for me it feels weird to have stopped Battlefield Heroes, or like give up on Battlefield Heroes before it would actually pay off. But that's not the first time that a great concept is stopped and then it comes back with another shape, another publisher, and then it becomes super successful.
So I'll give you some things that you might not have been aware of. I'm not sure you might have been. 2017 Fortnite, and then at the same time you have what was the hero shooter by
Overwatch.
Overwatch was hot. Like all these were
Mhm.
hot, right? Heroes, I think, was killed 2015. Much of it is attributed to the pay to win mechanics, in my opinion.
Yeah, that'll do it.
But what's interesting there is that game shut down with like almost, I think, 10,000 unique items in the game, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, wow.
But so many people and very close colleagues of mine tried to revive it and pitched to get it up and running again, or somehow make a remake or a new version of it. But unfortunately, that did not happen. So this is interesting. Heroes of Valor. Like you looked at the trailer, I feel like it was 1-to-1 almost. Even from the graphical point of view, from the how the characters looked like, how they behaved on screen. I'm very interested and hope that they find success because absolutely,
Yeah, definitely.
Heroes was actually also a browser-based game, so you didn't have to download anything. I'm not sure how Heroes of Valor are doing it.
I would be surprised if it was entirely browser based, but
Yeah.
you never know.
I'll put it on my list to follow. So that's going to be interesting and fun. Okay, gentlemen, I'll move over to the next item. Rematch. Rocket League inspired football game. We talked about this one from the Sifu developers. Skyrocket on Steam. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Good.
What
I
can
mean,
we
like we said, I think we've been ripe for a thing like this for a long time, and I'm really glad it's finally happening. I love the little top knot. It just has a very Sifu like look to it, a little nod to that, which I like.
Yeah.
There was what's interesting here. People were like on LinkedIn were pointing out to there's no room for this. But I was like, no, I don't. I disagree. There is room for this.
Yeah, definitely.
People yes, there is an audience that is just dedicated to realism and having a connection to the real world. But there is also an audience that doesn't care and just wants to have fun. I think Mario Strikers is a good example, but that one is just Nintendo.
Yeah, and that wasn't as well received, generally speaking. You know, just because someone made an arcade soccer game doesn't mean it's going to be a successful one. I think that was just like not quite on the map.
The previous version of Rocket League was also not that successful, and then they kind of relaunched exactly the same game, and then it became successful. So definitely something to keep in mind.
There are no answers to anything, basically.
Yeah, I think the challenge here maybe is the price, so it's €25. But we have example of games that have been very successful, like Eldivers, Paul World. Let's
Manu,
see.
Rocket League was also a premium game before they went free to play, right?
Yeah, and they went free to play alongside the PlayStation Plus. And the PlayStation Plus launch is famously like the most successful subscription service launch that anything has ever seen.
Yeah, exactly. So let's wait and see which one will get it in his subscription service.
I am sure somebody at PlayStation Plus is looking at this then.
Or Game Pass. Yeah.
Or Game Pass, absolutely. Okay, last item on the news. Ghost of Yotei comes to PlayStation 5 on October 2nd. I have reservations and I have some thoughts, but I would love to hear your thoughts about. I mean, so this is the first. Was it?
Wait, do we have a GTA 6 release date yet?
No.
Because I wouldn't be shocked if it was around then.
By the way, is there a Call of Duty this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Why not?
I would be shocked if there wasn't, but
Yeah, I don't think that's a huge competition. I think that there are a lot of things that are a big competition, but not necessarily Call of Duty.
I think we are end of April. We are coming to the point of no return for some games. They have to announce the release date. They cannot wait further until GTA 6 announce its release date. I think it's probably... And the longer GTA 6 takes to announce probably means it's closer to the end of the year than October or November. So, We have Borderlands 4 that's been announced. We had Mafia also announced last week in August. Borderlands is September. We have this one. These are kind of double to AAA games already piling up in the coming months. I think this year is going to be amazing from a games perspective. When you think everything that's what has been released already, the quality games we had, I think 4 games above 90 Metacritic. We had Monster Hunter Wild, we had Split Fiction, Blueprints, and now you have 33. What is it? Sorry, I forgot the name. Clair Obscur.
Yeah.
Already 4 games that are Game of the Year contestant, and we are 4 months in.
Yeah. And this was cool. I'll play that. I loved Tsushima. I would definitely play this.
Yeah.
I just hope it's not like it's like a Far Cry / Assassin's Creed situation where it's like okay, here are the systems we're gonna reuse, and here's the map, and go do all these things. Like, okay, I'm tired of that.
See, I kind of hope it is that. I don't want it to be like way bigger. I want like more like ways of interacting with the world, but I don't want it to be a whole lot bigger or very different. I want more flowers and I want more wind. And if you can give me those things, I'll be happy.
Okay, gentlemen. Thank you. I'll move over to the next item here. The trends. Nintendo maintains Nintendo Switch 2 pricing. Were we expecting something different, or?
Tariffs.
You remember we discussed about that because of the
Yeah.
tariff. We were not sure if they would keep the same prices or not for the Switch.
I think that they are just banking heavily on all of this getting solved in some capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the discussions has been toned down for countries outside of China.
And even China, he was walking back a little bit, like 2 nights ago. I mean, all that could change, today, and probably will change today. But that is currently where it stands. And I don't know, it's people are starting to feel the pain in America. Like people are losing farms, some plants are closing, and so I think there's kind of no way around that.
Okay, so I was a bit scared. I'm researching if the Nintendo Switch 2 would come with a dock. It does come with a dock.
We saw you Google it.
Yeah, they were selling separate. I was like, what? It doesn't include it, but it does include it, so we're good.
Wait. Are you sure about that?
Feel free to do your own research. In the meanwhile, what I am interested in is, yes, okay, Americans. By the way, Dave, can you explain this to us who are not Americans? Nintendo Switch 2 is $449. Is this the price I pay when I go to the store?
No.
So it's not $449.
There'll be tax on top of that, yeah.
And that will be added at the cashier immediately? Or how does that work?
Yeah. So you're going to see a sticker that says $449.
Yeah.
Then you take it to the cashier, and there's tax on top.
And online?
Yeah, same thing. But it'll be listed on Amazon as that, and then when you go to checkout, it'll have a bigger number.
That's
based on your shipping address?
Yeah, probably. Well, that would the shipping address will determine how much it costs to ship. Okay. Sales tax, I guess. Yeah, sales tax would be computed by that as well because it is different state by state.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm just wondering how it works.
Yeah. I guess I'm not really sure actually how it works for online purchases, but something like that.
Okay, so California seems like 7.25% sales tax, not a big deal-ish, I guess. And then New York is 4%. Okay, so I guess for those people it's cheaper to buy than the Switch. But for us in Sweden, well, I think it's still like $700 including tax.
Yeah, that is an expensive thing.
I have to double check this. Yes, roughly $700. Even though we're actually gaining on you guys because the dollar is losing the value.
It is. That's too bad for old Dave.
Okay, so I'll move over to the next item. Devolver Digital reveals which IPs and platform have made the most money as it shares its future strategy. Have you had the chance to look at this more closely?
Cult of the Lamb.
I just downloaded that. I want to play that. I haven't done it yet.
Scroll down. Stop.
Yep, there you go. Lifetime revenue, Cult of the Lamb, more than 100 million, or more than 90 million, rather. Sorry.
Yeah.
I love that it states here that is a third-party IP ownership. Good for you, whoever's behind that game.
Probably the ones that
Yeah.
build it.
Hotline Miami. That one,
Yeah,
I would
damn.
love to see a third one.
Stronghold. Interesting. Yeah. Gungeon. Yeah.
The Talos Principle, I wonder, is it
Gorn.
IP?
Gorn is on there. It's a VR game making a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they got a nice bonus, like independently of the sales, just for building the game.
Okay, but what's the takeaway here, Manu?
Informative. It could have been in the numbers.
But it seems like the focus is like, okay, sequels and DLC. Is that what I'm taking away here? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
leaning into their own popular IPs that are not new anymore, so they are already established IPs. I think the Talos Principle 2 is a great game. I don't know if it sold better than the first one or not. We can't really tell here. But you can see also the number of titles they have for each franchise, for each IP in the table. So also tells you that they've built these IPs and they will use them more in the future.
My takeaway here is I want to write an article about this or somehow like a post about this. There's some really cool learnings, I feel like. Okay, I'll move over to the next item. Apple slapped by a 500 million EU fine for App Store practices that deter alternative payments and third-party stores. I know that. So in Europe,
Meta got one too.
Sorry, come again?
Meta got one as well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is that part of the retaliation on the tariff maybe thing? But
it was already in the works. It's more part of a retaliation of American economic dominance. Like the tariffs are a manifestation of that, but I wouldn't call it tariff retaliation.
But Dave, can you explain how is Apple in North America not a monopoly?
I think that people would argue that it is not a monopoly because you can just use a Samsung phone. And if it were brought to court, that would be the core of their argument: is that that people still have choice.
Okay.
Obviously, it's a more complicated argument than that, but that's what they would say.
But for us who are lucky and live in the EU, I guess there are some things that are still good here, which is you can actually download now. You have to enable it on your iPhone, but you can actually download a separate third-party store, such as the Amazon App Store or other third parties. But it feels like they made it a bit harder, like to dig through and find these options. But is there anything else to take away from this?
It's a success for Epic. Epic are celebrating that because they've been fighting against the monopoly, the hardware monopoly or platform monopoly of Apple and of Google. So I think that's and it probably opens the door for more companies to just do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm almost thinking about opening an app store. Let's go. Okay. I'll move over to the next items. Roblox launching regional pricing to help creators accelerate international growth. So I assume, just reading this, is this like one of those things where the creator of an experience can now set prices across, like similar to Steam?
Yeah.
Before they would just say this costs this, and that would just show up everywhere, and now they would have more granular control.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Yeah. Which is, it's interesting because like it's all Robux, right?
Yeah.
So the conversion, I think that would probably be why they hadn't done it yet, but it still matters.
Steam does not have any of their own like currencies, right?
Just cards, which are not a currency, but it could be.
They're NFTs, but inside of the Steam ecosystem. Would that
They're
be
F-
correct?
yeah, they're FTs.
Uh, do we maybe see Steam one day launch their own currency?
I don't. Why would they? you know.
Keep the money flowing inside of the company, not letting people take it out as easily. But I don't know.
I mean, it's already like they're already functionally the only place to buy PC games. So
Yeah.
like they're already controlling all that, and that would just threaten. I don't know. It wouldn't seem like it would be a lot more trouble than it was worth.
Okay. I was thinking, like, imagine you as a developer making a game. You don't have to create your own systems for digital currency or in-game store, and then you can just connect that to Steam directly, and then people can just buy the currency that works across multiple games. That could be an interesting.
Which they're currently doing with fiat, as the crypto bros would say.
But the problem there is that you need to take out your card, or you need to accept through, it's not as seamless. Let's just say. But fair enough. Fair enough. I'll move over to the last item on the trends. A lot of Logitech products cost more now than 2 months ago. And then the second item here attached to this is retro handheld maker hit by Trump's trade war with China. So we know we did read that last week or a couple of weeks ago about some handhelds increasing the price already. But now we're seeing effects across other, gaming adjacent or traditional gaming hardware companies.
Yeah.
Is there anything to learn here? Additional? Is it just like okay, they're just making sure that their margins are
Prepared. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're gonna see it in like mice are computer hardware, and kind of especially like basic computer hardware like mice and computers are fairly competitive, and you're gonna see it more in competitive stuff first because they have less margin to play with.
And can you remind me, is this going to affect us in Europe as well?
Only in the sense of global economic turmoil.
Okay.
And I think this is actually a good example of that, right? These retro game makers, right? U.S. is a super important market for them. So even if these people don't have to raise their price technically in Europe, this places an enormous strain on their business to the point at which they might not be able to continue.
Fair
or
enough.
they have to raise prices in Europe as well.
But there is another angle where some companies might have too much stock because they cannot sell in the US anymore. So they have to sell the stock, and they might actually discount it more in countries where there are no tariffs.
Ooh,
Maybe.
yeah.
That's
I'm into that. I hadn't thought about that. That's cool. I'm going to buy a whole lot of mice.
I'm thinking about cars, for example, European car makers that have no access maybe to the US right now because of the tariffs. They might be an inventory growing that has to be sold somehow.
Gentlemen, I'll move over to the rumors. And this one, I feel like, is just part of the bloodbath post that we made. But let me know what you think. Ubisoft is developing a new battle royale heavily inspired by Apex Legends. Is this really true, do you think? It's a rumor, by the
This is
way.
what I hear. I think they already did that, and it didn't work great. Can't even remember the name of the thing, but it's I could see it happening.
I think it's interesting that Ubisoft has tried to replicate almost all shooter formulas. So they had a game like Call of Duty. They had Rainbow Six Siege Extraction, Rainbow Six Extraction. So they try extraction shooter. They tried a PvP Call of Duty type of game. Now they are trying this one. Maybe one will be successful, but I think what also I saw is that they released a new DLC for the Division 2.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's interesting. And maybe the extraction shooter is the Division. It was an extraction shooter before.
Yeah, they arguably invented it. Definitely. Yeah.
Let's double down on these ones
Yeah.
rather than just coming with new IPs, maybe. But coming with a new battle royale game feels a bit weird in this time.
It does feel like it makes sense to invest more in the division.
Yeah.
Sure. Why
And
not? It
I'm not
exists.
sure. Maybe I'm out of the loop, but I feel like did the division get or that entire segment of their portfolio, did it get the love required, or do we feel like they were not giving it the attention
I
enough?
mean, initially these Division
Yeah.
1 and 2 are more premium games where that makes a lot of impact at launch. They sell a lot of units, and then it's not so much designed as a live service game and some other games. But maybe this is the next step, is really becoming a live service type of game.
Yeah, I mean
It's a
the
shooter
division.
looter.
I loved so much about the division. I thought their combat was so good.
Yeah.
I feel like honestly, it was that that conflict that really sunk it. My biggest problem with that game was it was too long, which is a weird thing to say for a live service title, but it took like 40, 60 hours to sort of get onboarded into the actual live service loop. And so by the time so few people got to the point where they could become engaged by new content or where they could actually start hunting for good loot. And by that point, everything just kind of fizzled out. I think that like had that game had a 20-hour campaign and it had got you into the loop and waiting for the weekly reset at that point,
Yeah.
it could have been a lot more successful.
I think what is missing to the Division to be maybe the next Destiny is the lore and like remarkable characters and protagonists. Everything feel very blunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
Compared,
that sci-fi and fantasy is just better for loot, right? Like, who's
yeah,
going to say like
Uh,
this blue M16 is more powerful than this green M16 or
yeah.
M4, I guess. It's like, yeah, okay, fine, you know.
The only thing that I couldn't take the bullet sponging thing, because like to your point, it makes sense in Destiny and these or fantasy or whatever. But here's like, okay, I thought it
Yeah.
was like a realistic shooter. It could be fun. The environments are crazy beautiful. That's what caught
Yeah,
my
they
attention
are.
at the beginning. But yeah, gameplay wise, I couldn't handle that.
I heard a funny story about that one, about the environments where they hired a UK team to do a bunch of art, and so all the plugs in all the residential spaces had UK plugs.
There you go. Well, it's an alternative fantasy, right? It's an alternative universe.
Yeah, in which the U.S. adopted a arguably superior electrical standard.
The English never left.
Yeah.
Okay, gentlemen. I think we've reached the end here. By the way, there was one last thing before I let you go. Apex Legends, is that type of game still viable as a business? Especially considering that
That
Andrew
type of
Wilson.
game, you're gonna need to define that term for me.
I guess I feel like, okay, so it's a battle royale, right? But when we look at Fortnite, what Fortnite has done over the years is that they have opened up their platform for other types of experiences, mediums, and obviously today anybody can make a map or a level or maybe even a more complex mod. I don't know what's happening on Apex, but are they doing anything other than, and let me know because that's why I'm asking. Are they doing anything other than, okay, here's a new hero and we change the map this way? Because I feel like that's not enough, but let me know what you think.
Well, there is an element of fatigue with this game where season 20 looks like season 2. There is not really a lot of milestones beside the new season. It's still doing well when you look at the concurrent player. After 6 years, it's still doing well. I think there is a place where you can expand the universe by doing more than just a battle royale game in the Apex Legends settings. You remember there are constant rumors about Titanfall 3. I think there is a space there, maybe an Apex extraction shooter. Who knows? So I think at this point it's more about expanding the universe and the lore rather than just expanding the battle royale version of it.
I mean, to use an earlier example, Rocket League has done real well with just the one Chrome mode for a real long time.
And League of Legends also.
Yeah, I think it's viable.
And if you look at Fortnite, so Fortnite initially is a battle royale game, but
Well, Fortnite initially is a survival,
yeah,
wave-based survival
but
game.
the world is
Yeah.
actually a PvE type of game. But if you look at the number of players playing, they're still mostly playing either battle royale or they are playing shooter PvP type of game. There is not that much of other experience that are very successful. Lego Survival is doing well, but it's also fading away quite quickly. And there has not been really a really successful PvE formula so far that really sticks in Fortnite, as far as I know. So it's still basically a PvP shooter. Um,
Do
so
you, I mean, do you see people being fatigued by this? I mean, looking at the screen right now as we're speaking and watching, people drop in. I feel like,
mm,
okay, I've been doing this for 10 years almost ish.
the problem also, I think, for these games is the new player. It's difficult to get new players because the people still playing it after so many years are so good that there is such a skill gap that unless you find a way to protect your new players, the new players are going to shine very quickly. And that's where Fortnite is very good because they have so many bots in Fortnite, even in the battle royale mode, that you feel like you are winning sometimes. Usually, I think you by default you win your first battle royale match in Fortnite.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just about. You could theoretically lose, but you won't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think there's this element of making the experience more compelling for the new players. That's probably some competitors are missing.
Hmm.
And if you can't get new players, then yes, in a way you're also forced to serve to your old player what they like, which means basically change nothing. Because at some point in any life cycle of a game, if you always have the same players, they will never ask for changes. Um, so yeah, it's a challenge, but a lot of that is about the new players, or you can refresh your player base.
Well, and it's live service is still only so old at this point. Even the venerable titles of live service are, like 15, 20 years old. I
Mhm.
guess WoW is probably one of the oldest.
Yeah.
But, that's not 50 years old, right? It's I think the thing is like the only way the story ends is taking it out back and shooting it, right? And it's just a question of how long it's going to take.
Mm.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I was trying to get to. So thank you, Dave. Gentlemen, I think we've reached the end of the show. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate this. I think we had some really cool conversations, some really cool short clips that can be clipped, hopefully, and some really cool learnings, especially considering the article from Devolver Digital as an example. So I'm looking forward to diving into that stuff as well. But again, for those who are listening, thank you so much for joining us. Do all the likes, the clicking, bells, whistles, whatever you need to do to support the show. We really appreciate it. We have seen a doubling almost or a tripling almost of our viewership. So we really appreciate that. And thank you so much for the support. And yeah, with that being said, we'll see you on the next one.
See you on the next one.
Yeah. Bye bye.